I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not worry about the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. If you've been looking at our website, starborninstitute.org, you would already know that the title of tonight's show sounds a little grim, because the title is Tough Terms. And that is what we may all be facing in the future. And that is because there are 7 planets in only 2 of the cardinal signs, and they are all harshly squaring each other. The 4 cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And of those 4 signs, all 7 planets are only in 2 of them. For instance, there's going to be tough terms because the 4 planets that are in Aries are squaring the 3 in Capricorn, and they are severely challenging each other. So tough terms will be proposed and upheld, and it will be useless to argue with anybody about them. We'll just have to face them and accept them. Because there are 4 wonderful planets in Aries, the sign of new beginnings. And it's because the sun has now gone into Aries, so it's the sun, Venus, Mercury, and Uranus that are all in Aries. Now, none of those 4 planets rule that sign, but they are good planets. However, they are no match for the 3 planets in Capricorn that are squaring them. And that's why there's going to be tough terms right now. And that is because Mars, the ruler of Aries, is actually squaring that sign because it is exalted in Capricorn. And it is conjuncting Saturn in Capricorn, which is the ruler of the sign. Both of these malefic planets are so close together in their alignment that it's compounding their strength and their harshness. And then Pluto is also in Capricorn and almost exactly squaring Uranus in Aries. And so what that all boils down to is that you can't push a stubborn mule that knows they're on the right track, because they're going to uphold their beliefs right now. And that is what is happening. And that's because something big is on the horizon. Something big that involves the safety and the security of society. That's what's at stake right now, and that's why the terms of something can be so tough. In addition to that, Jupiter is in Scorpio, the sign of justice and survival, and it is trining Neptune in Pisces. And Neptune is the ruler of the sign, so it's very strong. And so there are people, since Pisces rules things behind the scenes, there are people that want to expose the truth about a cover-up or a conspiracy or things that are going on in the shadows. And because they want to expose that truth, they're doing that with the idea of ensuring that justice will be done. And they're intent on that, and I think they're going to succeed at that, even if we don't know everyone that is involved in a conspiracy until about the middle of the summertime or in July when Jupiter goes direct. So, what will today's pressures lead to? Well, first of all, I'm sorry to say that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that is because Mars and Saturn are closer and closer to an exact conjunction. And after they precisely conjunct, then Mars will move on, and it will move up and conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. And Mars and Pluto are the ruler of Scorpio. And they will conjunct at the end of April, and that is a very dangerous time because Scorpio also rules war. And so this time that is going to get worse before it gets better will involve people who can really feel some real frustration and pain as they have to confront drastic changes due to tough terms. However, there is a little glimmer of hope because today the moon is in Gemini, and Gemini is a very versatile, adaptable air sign. And so I think there is the possibility of a little wriggle room right now. And that is because Gemini rules communication and easy transitional change. And so there are some people who can adapt more readily to change than others, particularly younger people, and Gemini does rule youth. And so, you know, there isn't a person around who's 20 years old that can possibly even imagine what it's like to be 50, and that's because they naturally feel they have a lot of time on their side, and they're right. And so particularly younger people can have the time to adapt to some sort of change or transition. They have the time even to take a step backward in order to take another step forward in the future. And they have the time to slow down a little bit and try to be on firm ground as they proceed toward their goals. And then as they do reach their goals on firm ground, sort of moving slowly and surely, allowing for setbacks and delays, they can achieve success that can not only be safe and secure, but permanent. Because after all, if you want to climb a tall mountain, you have to start at the bottom. You can't start in the middle. And so as you're climbing a tall mountain and you persevere and you eventually reach the top, that victory of yours is not just permanent, it's yours forever. And forever is a very long time. So it's really good to make time your friend now, as we all have to face tough terms. And that means slowing down, and that means backing up a little bit, and that means maybe starting over. But it's got to be done for the safety and security of all of us. All right, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Well, Aries, for you, I think that you're a little bit up against it right now, and that is because you do have 4 wonderful planets in your sign, Aries, and that is the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Uranus, but they are no match for the planets that are squaring your sun sign, one of which is your ruler. So Mars is exalted in Capricorn. It is squaring your sun sign. That can be trouble for you because it can mean that there are other people that are very aggressively insisting on tough terms right now. And there's no point in arguing. They really mean it. And they're going to uphold their beliefs right now. And then that Mars is conjuncting Saturn, which is the ruler of Capricorn. And it is the planet of time. And then Pluto is in Capricorn as well. So I think you might feel a little bit like you're backed up against a wall, Aries, and that could be true. So although you have very good planets in your sign, you could face some real frustration or maybe even a little pain as you anticipate having to make some sort of drastic change. It could be a change that is beyond your control, not one that you're thinking about, but if some government agency or large corporation or the management in them decide to make some policy changes or decide to do something about your employment, then you may end up facing some drastic changes. It is going to get worse before it gets better, but there is the possibility that if you don't like what's going on in your life right now, Aries, there is a wonderful solar eclipse in Leo on August 11th that will trine your sun, and that might be a time when you could make a change. But I think that you are going to just have to really conform to tough terms right now. I don't think there's any way you can avoid that, actually. So smile and do your best if you can, Aries. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, I think that if you are really working on something behind the scenes, which is looking very bright and possible right now, and maybe even romantic, you could be anticipating that a lot because the 4 planets in Aries are right behind your sun sign, and of course one of them is Venus, your own ruler. But that sign, Aries, is under such heavy duress right now that you had best have a plan B, Taurus. And one of your options would be to stay right where you are, because I think the timing is not good for you to be making a new start. One reason is there wouldn't be enough money in it, and that's because Jupiter in Scorpio is opposing your sun sign. Another reason is there could be a betrayal. It's either your betrayal that you're making or somebody else could be making it. And if there is a betrayal involved, which would be the result of Saturn squaring Venus, Saturn in Capricorn squaring Venus in Aries, It simply means that a new beginning, which might look rosy to you, could need some careful re-examination and may even be canceled because it's being so severely challenged. So I would suggest that instead you really decide to take advantage of the fact that Mars, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn are trining your sun, because they really mean business. And yes, it's all about tough terms right now, but no one can respond to that better than an earth sign, particularly you, Taurus. So I think if you're challenged, you ought to just stay where you are and do your best, because it would mean great security and safety and probably victory for you way down the road. But it would be there. And I don't think you should turn your back on that, Taurus, because you're a person that likes security. And that could involve just staying where you are. This isn't the right time to jump into something new. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, the moon is in your sign today, and that means there can be a little wriggle room around somewhere for you or for young people, which is what your sign rules. Certainly because your sign rules easy transitional change, and because the 4 good planets in Aries are sextiling your sun, it simply means that you may have the chance to review something right now and decide to sort of tweak it or make some sort of temporary change that could be to your advantage more so than you realize. And that is because Mercury is in Aries. It's your ruler, but tomorrow it goes retrograde, and it stays retrograde until the middle of April. And so I think you're going to have to go back and re-examine something and change it in one way or another, but you could be successful at that right now, Gemini, which is good. Good luck on that. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer, this is a time when you're really going to have to face tough terms, and they may not be of your doing. You may not, it might not be your idea at all, and you certainly won't like it, but there is no way to get out of it. The 4 planets in Aries, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Uranus, are all squaring your sun, and they are being severely challenged because Mars is in Capricorn exalted, Saturn is there, which is the ruler, and so is Pluto, and they are all opposing your sun sign. So there can be a matter in your life, Cancer, involving your career or a large corporation or a government agency, and there can be tough terms that they are setting up that you would not like at all. And they will be upheld. There's nothing stopping them. And so I think that you are going to have to face the possibility of some drastic change. Now, it may be that there is some wriggle room for you, and the reason why is that moon in Gemini is right behind your sun sign. And so there is the possibility that you could think about downsizing in your career. Maybe you could go from full-time to part-time or to freelancing. Or it can be that if you're thinking of a move of some sort, you could be downsizing to a smaller place or to even thinking about getting a second home, something like that. But I think that the policies or the tough terms that can be spelled out right now and upheld, since they are for the good of society, you are going to have to go along with them, Cancer. I do not think you'll be hurt financially, and that is because Jupiter in Scorpio is trining your sun, and so is Neptune in Pisces. It's just that it doesn't mean that you would keep your level of finances. It means that you will have to conform to tough terms. But I think if anybody can afford that, you can, Cancer. So I just don't think you're going to like it, but you'll have to do it. I'm sorry. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, this is a time when you can be quite excited about a new beginning, and that it may not be your own. It might be somebody else's, because the 4 planets in Aries are such good ones. The Sun is there, which is your own ruler, Leo, and Venus and Mercury and Uranus, and they are all trining your sun sign. And so there can be news about some sort of new beginning, and you could be anticipating that. But because Mercury is going retrograde tomorrow in Aries, I think that what you'd better do instead, Leo, is check the fine print. There could be a well-hidden snag in the terms of some sort of new beginning. Because remember, those 4 planets in Aries, while they're trining your sun, they are under severe duress by others who are issuing very tough terms. They're for the right reason, though. There's nothing wrong with those terms. They're just tough, but they're for the good of everyone. And so, Leo, I think that you should just proceed a little bit more cautiously, even if you are excited about a new start, and look for some well-hidden snag, or else look for some information that has not been forthcoming yet. And when it does, it could sort of change your mind about things. That's why you need to sort of reconsider things right now, because it may be better to stay in your own backyard. And that's because Jupiter in Scorpio is still squaring your sun, which is a reminder that life is certainly expensive, and it might get more expensive somewhere else. So you have to consider that as well. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, this is a time when you can be let down or disillusioned, and if it isn't now, it's coming up by summertime. And that is because Neptune is so strong in Pisces, and it is opposing your sun sign. So there can be people that have been sort of saying one thing and doing another, or not telling you the whole truth. And when you do find out the truth, which is aspected to come out, the truth will be exposed and justice will be done. Then you could be a little bit disappointed in somebody. So you too, just like Taurus, should take advantage of the fact that Mars, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn are trining your sun. And so there can be someone around who, with very tough terms, who is making demands on you, Virgo. And that could actually be music to your ears, because no matter what somebody's throwing at you right now as a challenge, you can certainly sort of meet it and beat it. And if you're required to do even harder work on tough terms, it will surely bring out the best in you and also secure your long-term security. So you have nothing to lose by really working hard right now, Virgo. It's going to impress a lot of people, and it's going to make you feel good too. Maybe tired, but good. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Well, Libra, just like Aries, you could be feeling like you're up against it a little bit. And the reason why is that there are 4 good planets in Aries: the Sun, Venus, your own ruler, Mercury, and Uranus, but they are all opposing your sun sign, Libra. And the real troublemakers are the fact that Mars, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn are squaring your sun sign vehemently, and they mean business. So there is something around that involves a betrayal and also tough terms. And yet, I think, even though you'll have to meet tough terms and there can be a betrayal somewhere in your life, those tough terms could come from a corporation or a government agency, by the way. Still, with the moon in Gemini trining your sun, Libra, you are going to have a chance to make some easy transition or a temporary change that will work out pretty well for you. It might not be permanent, but it could help you out a little bit. And so you'll have that to look forward to. Good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, this is a time when I think that you could somewhat applaud the tough terms that will be issued and upheld. There will be no argument about them. And that is because the heavy-duty planets in Capricorn, Mars, Saturn, and Pluto, are sextiling your sun where you have Jupiter. And Neptune in Pisces is trining your sun sign. And so not only will justice be done, but Mars and Pluto are your rulers, Scorpio. And they are in a sign that really means business right now, because something big is at stake. Something that involves the security and the safety of all of society. And so I think you're going to applaud efforts to expose the truth and see that justice is done. And I think that you could benefit by adhering to very tough terms right now. The only thing that could stand in your way is the fact that if you have been a person involved in a conspiracy or doing something in the shadows that isn't quite right, you could get caught, and then you would have to face tough terms. And that would involve the loss of some money in one way or another as justice is done. So I think, though, that these strong planets in Capricorn, which are all sextiling your sun, it simply means that if you are faced with tough terms, you will have the ability to meet them in some way, even though it's going to get worse before it gets better. We all have to face that. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius, this is a time when I think that you may not exactly know which way to go. And that is because something new could be very tempting right now, Sagittarius, because the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Uranus in Aries are trining your Sun. They are under severe duress right now from the planets that are right ahead of your Sun sign, Mars, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn. So I think that you could be tempted to just go off and start something new that seems very appealing, and you could be excited about that. But at the same time, with all these planets in Capricorn right ahead of your Sun sign, you are going to have to face serious, tough terms, just like everybody else. And you could be a little bit easily misled right now, Sagittarius, because the moon in Gemini today is opposing your Sun sign. So not everyone is agreeing with your great enthusiastic plans, particularly not a woman. And so you'll have to put up with that. And Neptune in Pisces is squaring your Sun, which means that there can be things going on behind the scenes that you don't know about that could be very misleading and problematic. That's why, since Mercury is going retrograde tomorrow, you need to sort of double check the fine print and hesitate a little bit before you get too excited about a new beginning. No one can escape the fact that we have to face tough terms. And that particularly applies to you because the planets in Capricorn are right ahead of your Sun sign. So don't jump without looking at something real closely right now, Sagittarius. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, you can be really serious about something right now. After all, Mars is conjuncting Saturn in your sign, and Saturn is your ruler, and Pluto is there. And the 4 planets in Aries, which represent some sort of new start, are all squaring your Sun sign. But you can feel you're right about something, and you could issue tough terms to somebody. You certainly feel like sort of saying it the way you feel it right now. But I'd like you to just pause for a minute, Capricorn, and think about the fact that if you come on too strong, you could blow a new beginning. And I don't think you'd want to do that. And also, they say you can succeed more with honey than you can with sour grapes. And you could be the person that really wants to lay it on the line in a way that no one's going to like anyway. So why don't you just pause or stop and think? And if you do have something real serious to say, couldn't you just try to say it in a real nice way right now so that people can accept it more easily? Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, this is a time when you have to pay a little bit more attention to what's in the background of your life than what's out in front of it. And the reason why is because Mars, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn are right behind your Sun sign, and they are going to come up. They're coming up behind you, and they spell trouble and very tough terms. And if you decide that you're not going to pay attention to that right now, Aquarius, you will really regret it by the time of the lunar eclipse in your Sun sign at the end of July, because it's a harsh lunar eclipse. And so this is a time when you really need to pay attention to the warning signs. They are around. They're in a corporation or a large government agency, and there are things that are being decided that represent tough terms that will be upheld. And so it could have something to do with money, because Mars and Pluto are both in Capricorn and they rule Scorpio. And Scorpio rules financing, credit, debt, taxes, insurance, inheritance, and grants. And so that's what you need to do, is pay attention to little troublesome news and tough terms behind the scenes, Aquarius, and try to find some wriggle room. With the moon trining your sign from Gemini, you could find a way to make an easy transition, and you better do it now. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces, this is certainly a time when people are going to want to expose the truth in order to ensure that justice is done. And you could be instrumental in that, and that would certainly be wonderful for you, Pisces. But at the same time, the moon in Gemini is squaring your sun sign, and that means you can be a little confused or undecided about whether you want to make some easy transitional change or not. And you should consider that, but I don't think the timing is right at the moment, Pisces, because Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini, is retrograde and will remain so until the middle of April, and that means you may not know all the facts. And so you shouldn't make a decision until you decide the facts, until you learn all the facts, I mean. And on top of that, I think with these planets in Capricorn that really mean business, you too will have to face tough terms just like the rest of us. But we can get through it. Even if it gets worse before it gets better, we can get through it because we'll be in it together. So good luck, Pisces. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show and you can hear our podcast and read our blog on our website, starborninstitute.org.